There are promises a man never breaks. But what if breaking that promise is the only way to save a life? The question hangs in the frozen mountain air like mist rising from a winter creek. It is a question Caleb Thornfield will face in 60 days standing before a crowded courthouse, his calloused hand gripping a worn leather hat, his gray eyes locked on a judge already bought and paid for. But that moment, that reckoning, is still weeks away in a story that began 40 years before. On this particular September evening in 1963, the setting sun turns the West Virginia mountains gold. Caleb Thornfield sits in his rocking chair on the porch of the same log cabin where the story began. He is 72 now, his hair white as fresh snow, his hands still strong despite the arthritis that makes them ache on cold mornings. Those hands have built this house, cleared this land, held his wife through childbirth and sickness, buried her when cancer took her 3 years past. Beside him sits his grandson Daniel, 18 years old, clean-shaven, eyes bright with youth and fear in equal measure. On the chair between them lies an army uniform pressed and ready. Tomorrow morning, Daniel ships out to a place called Vietnam, a war most Americans cannot find on a map, a war that will take boys and return ghosts. Daniel stares at the uniform like it might bite him. "Grandpa," he says, voice tight. "Were you scared when you were young?" Caleb does not answer immediately. He has learned that truth takes time, that the best answers simmer like stew, cannot be rushed. He rocks slowly, the chair creaking in rhythm with his breath. Down in the valley, a hawk circles. Hunting, always hunting. "Scared of dying," Caleb says finally, voice like gravel in a riverbed. "No, scared of living wrong every single day." Daniel turns to look at him. "They say this war is different. Say we might lose." "Every man faces a war he might lose," Caleb says. "Not on the battlefield, in here." He taps his chest right over the heart. That is where the real fighting happens. The silence stretches between them. Daniel wants more, needs more. Caleb can see it in the way the boy's hands grip his knees, knuckles white with tension. He has seen that look before, in the mirror, in another young man who thought he had lost everything worth fighting for. Caleb stands slowly, joints protesting. He walks into the cabin, returns with a wooden box. The wood is old, darkened with age and oil from countless handlings. He sets it on the table between them, opens it with reverence, usually reserved for sacred things. Inside lies a collection of relics. A marriage certificate, yellowed and brittle, dated June 1923. A rosary, wooden beads worn smooth by decades of prayer. A piece of black fabric carefully folded. And a photograph, edges worn soft, showing a young woman with dark hair and solemn eyes standing beside a bearded man who looks like a stranger wearing Caleb's face. Daniel picks up the photograph. "This is Grandma." Caleb nods. His throat tightens the way it always does when he thinks of Margaret. 3 years dead, and still she visits him in dreams. Still he wakes, reaching for her in the darkness. "Your grandmother, Margaret Brennan Thornfield, the woman who taught me what love means, even though I had sworn never to love anyone again." "How did she come here?" Caleb sits back down. The rocking chair groans under his weight. He looks past his grandson, past the porch, past the mountains rising like ancient sentinels around them. He looks into the past, into a winter so cold it froze men's souls, into a time when he was young and broken and certain he would die alone on this mountain. 1923, he says. "I was 32 years old. Had lived alone on this mountain for 17 years. Had lost everything I ever loved. And then there was a letter." He closes his eyes. The memories come flooding back, sharp as winter wind, clear as creek water. He can smell the snow, taste the coffee Sarah made strong enough to strip paint, feel the weight of the Winchester rifle across his shoulders, hear the sound of a woman's voice saying his name for the first time. "Before you go to war," Caleb says to his grandson, "I want to tell you about the only promise I almost broke, about the woman who saved me, about what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself." Daniel leans forward, the uniform forgotten, and Caleb begins. "The first thing you need to understand is that November in the West Virginia mountains is not just cold. It is a killing cold. The kind that finds weakness and exploits it. The kind that takes men who think they are prepared and leaves them frozen in positions that suggest they died surprised." Caleb Thornfield kneels beside an icy stream, his massive hands red with the blood of the deer he has just dressed. Steam rises from the open cavity where he removed the organs. The heart, liver, and kidneys sit in a cloth bag at his side. Tonight's meal. Nothing wasted, not up here, not in winter. His beard is thick and wild frosted white with snow that falls in heavy curtains from a sky the color of old iron. At 32, he is in his prime. 6 feet 3 inches of muscle and sinew forged by 17 years of mountain living. His hands move with the practiced efficiency of a man who has done this 1,000 times. The knife is 8 inches of carbon steel honed to an edge that could split hairs. He makes his cuts with surgical precision, from pelvis to sternum, careful not to puncture the intestines. The smell is rank and copper sweet, life and death mixed together. 15 feet away, Sarah Redwing gathers herbs in the fading light. She is 58 years old Cherokee, with silver braids that fall past her shoulders and a face carved by time into something resembling ancient oak. Her dark eyes miss nothing as she moves through the snow, identifying plants by touch more than sight. Golden seal for infection, wild ginger for stomach ailments, sassafras bark for tea, pine needles for vitamin C through the long winter ahead. She watches Caleb work and shakes her head. Winter comes hard this year, she says in English, touched with the musical lilt of her first language. A man alone will not survive. Caleb does not look up from his work. His voice when it comes is as rough as granite grinding against granite. I have managed 17 years just fine. Sarah makes a sound somewhere between a laugh and a cough. It echoes across the empty valley. 17 years you did not have Garrett wanting your land. You need a wife, need a child, need someone to prove you are not some crazy hermit living like an animal up here. Now Caleb does stop. His hand stills on the deer's. He reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out a crumpled newspaper advertisement. The paper is soft from being folded and unfolded too many times. The words are smudged but still legible. Seeking woman for mountain life. No romance. Security guaranteed. The advertisement is stark, honest, as unadorned as the man who wrote it. Caleb Thornfield does not believe in love. He believed once. That belief nearly destroyed him. Now he believes in agreements, in contracts, in building something solid on truth rather than pretty lies. That is a promise, Sarah asked, though she already knows the answer. She has known Caleb since he was 15 years old, since his father died in a logging accident and left him alone on this mountain with nothing but rage and grief for company. It is a contract, Caleb says. I will not promise what I cannot give. Sarah's face softens. Your grandmother said the same thing. Then she met your grandfather. Then they had 7 children. Caleb's jaw tightens. Rebecca promised to love this mountain, promised to love the isolation, promised to love me. None of it was true. Rebecca was young and foolish, Sarah says gently, and you were young and did not know how to speak what was in your heart. There is nothing in my heart, Caleb says. He returns to his work, hands moving with renewed vigor, stripping hide, cutting meat, separating what can be used from what must be discarded. Hearts get you killed. Sarah says nothing more. There is nothing more to say. She has said it all before many times in many ways. Caleb is as stubborn as the mountains themselves. He will not be moved by words, only by time, only by experience, only by something powerful enough to crack the walls he has built around himself. She returns to gathering herbs. The snow continues to fall. And somewhere in Philadelphia, 300 miles to the east, a young woman reads an advertisement in a newspaper and makes a decision that will change everything. The technical details matter here. This is not sentiment. This is survival. Caleb's knife is a Bowie design 12 inches from tip to hilt, forged from high-carbon steel that holds an edge through hard use. The blade is stained dark from years of work, but cleaned meticulously after each use. Rust is death in the wilderness. Dull blades are worse. He tests the edge against his thumb, feels the bite nods, satisfaction. The deer is a doe, approximately 140 pounds, field-dressed. She will provide meat for a month if preserved properly. Salt cure most of it, smoke some. The hide will become leather after weeks of careful tanning. The sinew will make threads stronger than any store-bought alternative. The bones will be boiled for marrow and stock. Even the hooves will be rendered for glue. Nothing wasted. This is the first law of mountain living. His Winchester model, 1894 rifle leans against a nearby tree, never more than arm's reach away. 30-30 caliber, lever action, 7 rounds. He can reload in darkness by touch alone. Has done so many times when night hunting became necessary. The rifle is oiled weekly, the action smooth as silk, the barrel clean enough to see your reflection. It is the difference between eating and starving, between living and becoming food for wolves. His bearskin coat was made from a grizzly he killed in the winter of 1919. 800 pounds of rage and hunger that thought Caleb looked like easy prey. The bear was wrong. It took 3 shots to bring the animal down, and even then it nearly killed him before dying. The coat is heavy, smells of lanolin and old smoke, but it keeps him alive when temperatures drop below zero. These details matter because they show who Caleb is, not through words, through tools, through skills, through the 1,000 small competencies that separate men who survive from men who become cautionary tales. Sarah finishes gathering herbs and joins him at the stream. She washes her hands in the frigid water, dries them on her doeskin dress. Together they load the deer onto a travois Caleb built for exactly this purpose. 2 long poles crossed and bound with leather straps to secure the carcass. He will drag it the 2 miles back to the cabin, the poles cutting furrows in the snow that will be covered by morning. They walk in companionable silence. Sarah has learned when to speak and when to let silence do the work. Caleb appreciates this about her. She is the closest thing to family he has left. More mother than housekeeper. More friend than employee. She appeared on his doorstep 10 years ago, shortly after Rebecca left, offering to cook and keep house in exchange for shelter through the winter. She never left. He never asked her to. "The woman who answers your advertisement," Sarah says as they crest the ridge and the cabin comes into view. "What will you tell her?" "The truth," Caleb says. "What I need, what I can offer, what I cannot. And if she wants more, then she is not the right woman." Sarah nods. She does not argue. There is no point. Caleb has made his decision. He will marry for necessity, not love. He will father a child to secure his land claim. He will provide safety, security, and honesty. He will not provide romance. Cannot provide it. That part of him died 5 years ago, when Rebecca walked down this same mountain and never looked back. What neither of them knows, what neither can know, is that in 3 days a letter will arrive. In 7 days, a woman will step off a train in Charleston. In 8 days, everything Caleb thinks he knows about himself will begin to crumble. But that is still in the future. Right now, there is only the work. The deer to hang, the meat to butcher, the cold to endure, the endless grinding solitude of a man who has chosen safety over risk, walls over windows, death over the possibility of being hurt again. The cabin appears through the snow. Smoke rises from the stone chimney. Light glows warm in the windows. It looks from a distance like a home, like a place where a family might live, like something worth protecting. Caleb sees only a shelter, 4 walls and a roof, a place to sleep and eat and wait for spring. Nothing more, nothing less. He does not yet know that homes are not built with timber and stone. They are built with promises, with choices, with the decision to let someone see you completely and trust they will stay anyway. But he will learn in 60 days, at great cost. Charleston, West Virginia, 10 o'clock at night, late November 1923. The train station sits at the edge of civilization where electric lights give way to mountain darkness. Snow falls in thick curtains that muffle sound and turn the world into shades of gray and white. The platform is nearly empty at this hour. Just the retreating train, its whistle fading into the distance, and 3 men near the saloon across the street. Sister Margaret Brennan steps down from the passenger car. Her legs are unsteady after 2 days of travel from Philadelphia. She is 22 years old, but looks younger in the plain black wool of someone who spent 15 years at a convent, but never quite committed to the final vows. The clothing is modest, but not a full habit. No wimple covering her hair, just a simple black bonnet tied beneath her chin. A rosary hangs from her wrist, wooden beads, clicking softly as she grips her single battered suitcase. Everything she owns in the world fits in that one case. 3 dresses, a spare pair of shoes, her mother's Bible, letters from the children at the orphanage, a small wooden cross carved by a boy named Thomas, who died of scarlet fever 2 winters past. She keeps it to remember that love always costs something, That caring for people means losing them. That wanting to be a mother means accepting you will one day bury them or they will bury you. She has thought about this a great deal. The cost of love, the price of family. She has decided the cost is worth paying, even if it kills her, especially if it kills her. Better to die having loved than to live having never tried. The station is cold. Her breath makes clouds in the frigid air. She looks around for the man who is supposed to meet her. Caleb Thornfield, the mountain man who needs a wife. Not for love, for legal protection. She answered his advertisement 3 weeks ago, giving a false name, Grace Hartwell, because she was afraid he would reject her if he knew the truth. That she is not quite a nun and not quite not a nun. That she is damaged goods. That 4 other men already looked at what she offered and found it wanting. But there is no one waiting. No wagon. No towering figure emerging from the shadows. The 3 drunk men notice her. Of course they do. A woman alone at night is never invisible. They move toward her not quickly but with the determined inevitability of men who have decided something and will not be talked out of it. "Hey there, sweetheart," one calls. His voice slurs the words together. "All by yourself, that is dangerous." Maggie backs up until her shoulders hit the station wall. Her fingers tighten on the suitcase handle. 15 years in a convent did not prepare her for this. The sisters taught her to pray, to read Latin, to tend the sick, and teach children. They did not teach her how to fight, how to make herself smaller, how to disappear. "We will protect you," a second man says. His breath reeks of whiskey. He is close now, too close, reaching for her arm. "Keep you real safe." That is when the shadow moves. One moment there is nothing but darkness near the edge of the platform. The next a figure steps into the lamplight and Maggie's breath catches despite herself. Caleb Thornfield is massive. 6 feet 3 inches, wearing a bearskin coat that makes him look like some mythical creature from ancient stories. Half man, half mountain. His hair and beard are wild as the wilderness itself, long and dark and frosted with snow. But his eyes, those sharp gray-blue eyes, hold an intelligence that cuts through the rough exterior like a blade. The Winchester rifle is slung across his shoulders. The Bowie knife sits at his hip. He looks more dangerous than the 3 drunk men combined. More dangerous than anything Maggie has ever seen. His voice when he speaks is low, controlled, the kind of voice that does not need to be raised to carry threat. "She is waiting for me. You boys have a problem with that." The 3 drunk men look at him. Really look. And whatever they see makes them step back fast. "No problem, Thornfield." The first one says, nervous laughter escaping like steam from a kettle. "No problem at all." They scatter like leaves before a storm, disappearing into the saloon. The door slams behind them, muffling their nervous chatter. Caleb turns to Maggie. He does not smile, does not offer comfort or apology for being late, just looks at her with those assessing eyes, cataloging everything about her in 3 seconds. Height, build, age, condition. Like evaluating livestock at auction. Not cruel, just practical. Grace Hartwell. It is not really a question. He knows who she is. She nods anyway, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mr. Thornfield, I was beginning to think you were not coming. Train was 2 hours late. Wagon is over there. Let us go." He picks up her suitcase with one hand, lifting it like it weighs nothing at all, and walks away without checking if she is following. Just assumes she will. Because what other choice does she have? A woman alone. At night, in a strange city, with $3 left to her name and nowhere else to go. Maggie stands there for a moment, watching his broad back disappear into the snow, thinking about what she is doing, what she has agreed to. A marriage of convenience to a man who does not want love, who cannot promise anything except safety and honesty, who looks like he could break her in half without effort. Then she follows, because 4 rejections have taught her that choices narrow with each passing year. That being 22 and unmarried and formerly religious makes her undesirable to most men. That this might be her last chance at the only thing she has ever really wanted. A family, a child, a place to belong. The wagon is sturdy, painted black, pulled by 2 strong horses that stamp and blow clouds of steam into the cold air. Caleb loads her suitcase without ceremony and climbs into the driver's seat. Maggie hauls herself up beside him, grateful for the thick quilts folded on the bench. As they pull away from the station, leaving Charleston's fading lights behind, Maggie allows herself one glance back at civilization. Then she faces forward, toward the mountains, toward the unknown, toward the man beside her who has not spoken a word since telling her to come. The silence stretches. The only sounds are the horses' hooves on frozen ground and the creak of wagon wheels. Snow continues to fall, turning Maggie's dark coat white at the shoulders. She is cold, exhausted, afraid. But she keeps her back straight and her face calm. 15 years with the Sisters of Mercy taught her how to endure discomfort without complaint. After 10 minutes, Caleb suddenly stops the wagon beside a small creek. The water runs black and silver in the moonlight, talking to itself in quiet murmurs over smooth stones. Maggie looks at him confused and slightly alarmed. Is something wrong? He reaches under the seat and pulls out a dented metal thermos. Without speaking, he unscrews the cap, pours steaming liquid into it, and hands it to her. The heat nearly burns her cold fingers, but she does not let go. Steam rises between them, carrying the rich scent of coffee. Thank you. Sarah made it this morning. We have 4 hours ahead. Cannot have you freezing. It is a practical statement delivered without warmth, but Maggie recognizes it for what it is anyway. Kindness disguised as logic. The coffee is strong enough to curl her toes, thick and black and laced with something sweet she cannot identify. It burns going down but spreads warmth through her chest like a small sun taking up residence beneath her ribs. Caleb pulls out a package wrapped in cloth and offers it to her. Cornbread still slightly warm. Maggie's stomach growls, betraying her. She has not eaten since breakfast, having spent her last coins on the train ticket. The train had food for sale, she says simply. But I did not have money left after the fare. The convent does not allow us to keep much. She watches his face to see if he will judge her for poverty, but Caleb just nods, pushing the cornbread closer. Eat. Sarah made plenty. They eat in silence, the only sound the creek singing over stones and the horses breathing steadily into the cold. It is not uncomfortable, this quiet. Maggie has spent years in contemplative silence, learning that words are not always necessary for communication. She sips the coffee, grateful for its heat, and realizes this is the first time in months she has felt almost safe. This coffee is very strong. Sarah makes it Cherokee style, says weak coffee is for weak people. Maggie laughs, a small sound that surprises them both. I am not sure my heart is ready for this. The corner of Caleb's mouth twitches, almost a smile, but not quite. If you survive Sarah's coffee, you will survive anything on this mountain. Is that meant to be encouraging? It is meant to be true. I do not encourage, I just tell the truth. Something in Maggie relaxes at that. The men who rejected her, all 4 of them, lied constantly, told her she was fine until she was not, promised things they never intended to deliver. This man's bluntness, his refusal to soften reality, feels like standing on solid ground after years of quicksand. Caleb looks at the rosary beads wrapped around her wrist. Not a question, but an observation. You still wear those? I may have left the convent, Maggie says quietly, but I did not leave my faith. I am not asking you to. Father Callahan in Coal Ridge is a good man. You can see him whenever you want. Maggie turns to look at him, fully surprised. You do not object. I object to lies, not faith. If God makes you strong, that is good. Empêche, the respect in his words, the complete acceptance of something that made other men uncomfortable, hits Maggie harder than she expects. Her throat tightens. She looks away, blinking against something that might be tears, or might just be the sting of cold air. They finish eating. Caleb stores the thermos and drives the wagon back onto the road. The mountains rise around them now, vast dark shapes against the slightly lighter sky. The road narrows, hugging cliff sides that drop away into blackness. Maggie grips the seat edge, trying not to look at the empty air beside them. Scared of falling. Not of where I am going, just the way there. Smart to be scared. These roads killed 3 people last winter. You are very reassuring. He makes that almost smile again. Not in the business of reassuring, business of truth. You want pretty lies, you pick the wrong man. Maggie finds herself smiling despite everything. I have had 4 chances at pretty lies. They all ended the same way. Truth is refreshing. 4, Caleb's voice sharpened slightly. Your letter mentioned you were rejected 4 times. Why? Maggie's smile fades. She looks out at the passing darkness, considering how much to tell this stranger who will be her husband, then decides that if he values truth, she will give him truth. Pick a reason. Too religious, too educated, too young, too damaged. Too whatever excuse men give when they cannot admit they want someone softer. I do not want softer. Then why do you want me? She turns to face him, really asking, needing to understand this arrangement before they go any further. Caleb is quiet for a long moment, guiding the horses around a particularly sharp turn. When he finally speaks, his voice carries a weight that suggests the words cost him something. Your letter. You did not promise to love me, did not promise to make me happy, did not promise anything but partnership and purpose. That is rare. He pauses. Most women promise love. Rebecca promised she would love mountain life, love the isolation, love me. None of it was true. What happened to her? His jaw tightens, visible even through the beard. She left, said I was emotionally unavailable, said the mountains were suffocating, said marrying me was the biggest mistake of her life. And you believed her. Caleb looks startled by the question. Why would I not? Because people who leave always blame the person they are leaving, Maggie says with quiet insight. It is easier than admitting they chose wrong. He stares at her and something shifts behind his eyes. Something that looks like recognition, like seeing himself understood for the first time in years. He does not respond, just turns back to the horses. But Maggie notices his shoulders are not quite as tense anymore. The wagon crests a hill and Maggie gasps despite herself. Below them, spread across a valley like something from a storybook, is a homestead. Not a rough shack, but a proper log cabin. 2 stories, smoke rising from a stone chimney. Outbuildings cluster nearby. Barn, smokehouse, woodshed. Everything neat and well-maintained. The mountains rise behind it all, eternal and protective. It is magnificent. It is profitable, Caleb says. But there is pride in his voice anyway. Carefully hidden, but present. This is his life's work. 17 years of labor made visible in timber and stone. The wagon pulls up to the front steps where a figure waits with a lantern. Sarah Redwing does not look particularly impressed as she studies Maggie in the lamplight. But her eyes are sharp, missing nothing. So you brought her. Sarah, this is Grace Hartwell. Grace Herrera has been with me 10 years. She cooks, keeps house, and does not tolerate nonsense. Sarah circles Maggie, slowly inspecting like she would a horse at auction. Skinny. Do you eat enough? Convent food was not particularly hearty. I will fix that. You have strong eyes, though, not scared eyes. That is good. Should I be scared? Of the mountains? Yes. Of wolves? Yes. Of him? Sarah nods at Caleb. No, he is all bark, no bite. I bite plenty. Not women, just trees. Sarah gestures toward the door. Come, I will show you your room. You can wash before supper. Maggie follows Sarah inside, leaving Caleb to unload the wagon. The cabin's interior takes her breath away. Polished wood floors, handmade furniture, a massive stone fireplace radiating warmth. This is not a bachelor's rough shelter. This is a home carefully built, waiting for someone to fill it. Upstairs, Sarah opens a door to a room that is simple but clean. A brass bed with a thick quilt, a washstand with basin and pitcher, a small wardrobe, a window overlooking the valley. A fire crackles in a small fireplace already lit and warming the space. Maggie touches the quilt, running her fingers over the intricate pattern. This is beautiful. I made it. Cherokee pattern represents family tree. Caleb's grandmother was Cherokee. His grandfather was a white trapper. They were like you two, an arrangement that became love. Did it work? Sarah's weathered face creases into something that might be a smile. 40 years, 7 children, happiness mostly, struggle always. But they chose each other every day. That is what marriage is. Caleb does not want love, just an heir. Sarah laughs, a dry, raspy sound. Men do not know what they want. Your job is to show him. She leaves Maggie alone to wash and change. Maggie stands at the window watching Caleb below as he chops wood with rhythmic precision. Each swing of the axe is perfectly controlled, powerful, the product of years of practice. She thinks about what she has agreed to, about the contract she will sign with her body if not her heart, about the child she desperately wants and the man who promises only security, never affection. Then she thinks about the four men who rejected her, about their promises that turned to ash, about pretty words that meant nothing. And she thinks maybe honest coldness is better than lying warmth. Maybe truth, even hard truth, is the only foundation worth building on. Dinner is venison stew, cornbread, roasted root vegetables, and wild berry preserves. Maggie eats carefully, aware of both Caleb and Sarah watching her. The food is delicious, rich, and filling in a way convent meals never were. Her stomach, used to thin soups and sparse portions, rebels slightly at the richness. But she forces herself to finish. She will need strength for whatever comes next. But before they can discuss terms, before Caleb can lay out the agreement he has prepared in his mind, the sound of multiple horses breaks the evening quiet. Caleb stands instantly. His entire body goes tense in a way Maggie has not seen before. Sarah's face goes grim. "Grace," Sarah says quietly, "go upstairs." "What then him?" Sarah does not answer, just gently pushes her toward the stairs. Maggie goes but stops halfway up, hidden in shadow where she can hear everything. The front door opens without anyone knocking. Three men enter, bringing cold air and menace with them. The leader is perhaps 30 years old, wearing an expensive suit that looks absurd in this rustic setting. His face is handsome in a slick, untrustworthy way. His smile never reaches his eyes. "Cousin Caleb," he says, voice smooth as oil. "Been too long." Caleb's voice, when he responds, is colder than the mountain winter. "Not long enough. Get off my land, Garrett." Garrett Thornfield, Maggie realizes. The cousin trying to steal Caleb's property. She presses closer to the railing, not wanting to miss a word. "Attends. Your land," Garrett makes a show of looking around the cabin. "Let us see, a single man, no children, living like a hermit. What does the law say about that again?" "The law says this land is mine. I have the deed." "Old deed, old law." Garrett's smile widens. "But there is a new statute passed in 21. Says large parcels of public land cannot be held by individuals who are not productively settled. And you, cousin, are not producing anything but firewood." Caleb steps forward. "I sell timber, pay taxes, run a legal operation. But you are not a settled family." Garrett's voice drops to something dangerous. "No wife, no children, no contribution to the community. You are just a hermit playing mountain man while sitting on land worth a fortune." He pauses, letting the poison sink in. "I have got a judge. I have got lawyers. In 60 days, this land will be mine. Unless you prove you are a settled family man. Wife, children, living like a normal person instead of a wild animal." Garrett's eyes flick toward the stairs, and Maggie realizes he knows she is there. Of course he does. Men like Garrett always know more than they should. "I hear you have a guest. Female guest. How convenient." Caleb steps forward, and for the first time, Maggie sees the violence he keeps leashed beneath his control. "She will be my wife. We will have children. You will lose." Garrett laughs, a sound like oil sliding over stone. "Will I let us see? 60 days, Caleb. Tick-tock." He turns to leave, then stops at the door, looking back with a smile that makes Maggie's skin crawl. "Oh, and Caleb makes sure you keep that future wife of yours safe. Mountain cabins are dangerous. So many accidents waiting to happen. Stairs collapse, ice forms, loose boards. A woman could get hurt so easily." The threat is crystal clear. Garrett will hurt Maggie to win. Caleb moves so fast, Maggie barely sees it. One moment he is by the fireplace. The next he has Garrett by the throat, pinned against the doorframe. His voice comes out in a growl that raises every hair on Maggie's body. "You touch her, I will kill you." While Garrett's men reach for weapons, but Garrett holds up a hand, stopping them. His face is red, but he is still smiling, that oil-slick smile. "See, violent temper, the judge will love hearing about this." Caleb releases him, stepping back with visible effort. Garrett straightens his coat, still smiling. 60 days, better make them count." He leaves. His men follow. The door closes. Silence fills the cabin like water filling lungs. Maggie comes down the stairs. Caleb stands with his back to her, fists clenched, breathing hard. She sees the war happening inside him. Rage versus control, violence versus reason. I heard everything. He does not turn. You can leave if you want. I will pay your train fare back. Or we could fight. Now he does turn, surprise clear on his face. This is not your fight. You invited me here to be your wife, to prove you are a family man, so let me do that. Something in his expression shifts, not softening exactly but opening, like a door locked for years finding its hinges still work. He threatened you. Did you hear that part? He will hurt you to get to me. Maggie walks closer, stopping a few feet away. Her voice is steady, certain. I have been hurt before, by rejection, by judgment, by men who could not see my value. But I am still here. I am still standing. I am stronger than I look, Caleb Thornfield. And I do not run from threats. Why risk yourself for land that is not yours for a man you barely know? Maggie's answer comes from her core, from the deepest truth she knows. Because for the first time in my life, someone is not asking me to be different. You want me exactly as I am. That is worth fighting for. The silence stretches between them, thick with things neither knows how to say. Finally, Caleb nods once. Sharp. Definite. All right then. We fight. From the kitchen, Sarah's voice carries. About time you two stopped being polite and started being honest. Now come eat. Cannot fight wars on empty stomachs. Despite everything, Maggie smiles. Caleb almost does too. Outside, snow begins to fall again, covering the tracks of Garrett's horses, erasing evidence of his visit. But the threat remains hanging over them like a sword. 60 days, 2 months to build a marriage, create a family, prove themselves worthy in the eyes of a biased court. Maggie thinks about the children she taught in Philadelphia, about the little girl who asked why she could not be her mama. She thinks about the 4 men who rejected her and the 6th who accepted her exactly as she was. She thinks about what she is willing to risk for the chance to finally belong somewhere. Everything. She realizes she is willing to risk everything, and so it seems is Caleb. The war has begun, not with violence, not yet, but with a decision. 2 broken people choosing to stand together against a man who wants to tear them apart. In the mountains, winter deepens. The wolves begin their nightly song, and inside a warm cabin, 2 strangers begin the work of becoming something more. The first 7 days pass in a rhythm unfamiliar to both of them. Caleb has lived alone for so long that another person's presence feels like an intrusion, even when that presence moves quietly through the cabin's rooms. Maggie has spent 15 years in the ordered silence of convent life, where every hour had its purpose, every action its prescribed form. Here there is no bell calling her to prayer, no schedule except the demands of survival, no rules except those she and Caleb must create together. On the first morning, Sarah teaches Maggie how to preserve venison. The process is ancient, unchanged for centuries. Salt cure most of the meat, rubbing coarse salt deep into every surface until the flesh is completely covered. The salt draws out moisture, preventing rot. Some pieces go into the smokehouse where they will hang for weeks above smoldering hickory, absorbing the smoke that will keep them edible through spring. Nothing is wasted. Even the bones are saved for stock, boiled until they surrender every drop of marrow and gelatin. Maggie learns quickly. Her hands, though unused to this kind of work, are skilled from years of tending the sick, changing bandages, preparing medicines. She understands the importance of cleanliness, of precision, of doing things right the first time. Sarah watches her with approval that grows into something like respect. In the afternoons when Caleb is working in the barn or cutting timber in the forest, Maggie explores the cabin. She finds his library and stands before it in wonder. The books are not what she expected, not almanacs and practical guides, though those are present, but poetry, Wordsworth and Keats and Tennyson, philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, Thoreau, natural history texts with detailed illustrations of birds and plants and geological formations. She runs her fingers over the worn spines, understanding something essential about the man who owns them. Caleb is not the rough hermit the town believes him to be. He is educated, thoughtful, a man who reads about solitary wandering through nature and finds kinship with those long-dead voices. On the 3rd evening, she asks if she might read aloud after supper. Caleb shrugs as if it does not matter, but she notices he sets aside the piece of wood he is whittling, sits very still as she reads Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. His eyes close as she reads. His breathing slows. For those few minutes, the hard lines of his face soften into something almost peaceful. Sarah sitting by the fire with her mending smiles into the darkness. On the morning of the fourth day, they finally discuss the terms of their arrangement. Caleb has been putting it off, she realizes. Not from cowardice, but from some strange hesitation she does not yet understand. As if speaking the words aloud will make them too real. As if the contract, once articulated, becomes binding in ways that frighten him. They sit at the table after breakfast. Sarah has gone to gather eggs. They are alone for the first time since Maggie arrived. The silence between them is not uncomfortable, but it carries weight. Expectation. The knowledge that what comes next will define everything. We need to discuss terms, Caleb says finally. His voice is rough as always, but there is something underneath. Nervousness, perhaps, or uncertainty. Maggie straightens her spine. All right. Your primary purpose here is to conceive and bear my child. Preferably a son, but I will accept a healthy daughter. He says it clinically, like discussing a business transaction, which she supposes it is. She keeps her voice equally steady. What if I cannot conceive? Then we keep trying, or we adopt a child and claim it as ours. The law does not care as long as there is a documented heir. Why the urgency? His jaw tightens. My cousin Garrett is contesting my land claim. Says a bachelor with no heirs has no right to 8,000 acres. If I die childless, he gets everything. So I am not just a mother, I am a legal strategy. Caleb's expression does not change, but something in his eyes suggests approval of her directness. Exactly. At least you are honest. They continue through the other terms: medical care, household management, the $50 monthly he will deposit in an account under her name, the social obligations that make him visibly uncomfortable, church on Sundays, town gatherings twice a year. No more than that. He has avoided people for 5 years. Cannot imagine returning to the performance of normalcy, but it is the seventh term that causes him the most discomfort, the physical aspect of their arrangement. He stumbles over the words, his face going slightly red beneath the beard. Maggie takes pity on him. Mr. Thornfield, Caleb. She pauses, gathering her courage. I need to be honest about something. What? I know nothing about marital relations. The convent did not exactly provide education in that area. I will probably be awkward, possibly terrible at it, but I am willing to learn if you are willing to be patient. He looks shocked by her directness. Silence fills the room. Then unexpectedly he laughs. It is a real laugh, rough and unpracticed, but genuine. Rebecca said I was terrible at it too, said betting me was like being mauled by a bear. Now it is Maggie's turn to laugh. Then we will figure it out together. Two terrible people becoming adequate. The tension breaks. Something shifts between them. Not intimacy, not yet, but the beginning of ease. The sense that perhaps they can build something functional, if not romantic, on this foundation of mutual honesty. But before they can discuss anything further, there is the matter that hangs over everything. The 60-day deadline. The need to prove to Coleridge, to the judge, to the world that Caleb Thornfield is not a hermit, but a settled family man, which means going to town. The wagon ride down the mountain takes 3 hours. Caleb is tense from the moment they leave, his hands tight on the reins, his jaw set. Maggie understands. He is about to do something he has avoided for 5 years. Walk among people who judged him when Rebecca left, who whispered that any woman who married him was doomed to the same fate, who see him as a curiosity at best, a cautionary tale at worst. Town will talk, he says as they descend through forest that gradually thins. They always talk. Let them, Maggie replies. We know the truth. When truth does not matter as much as perception, then we will change their perception. He glances at her, something that might be admiration flickering in those gray eyes. You make it sound simple. It is simple. We just have to show them who we really are instead of who they expect us to be. Coleridge sits in a valley where 3 creeks converge, their waters joining before continuing south toward the bigger rivers. Perhaps 300 souls scratch out lives here through logging and coal mining. The main street is frozen mud, rutted by countless wagon wheels. Buildings line both sides. Church, general store, saloon, bank, courthouse, blacksmith. All of them lean slightly in the same direction, following some ancient shift in the earth beneath. When Caleb's wagon rolls down Main Street, conversations stop. People turn to stare. A few wave tentatively, more surprised than friendly. Most just watch their faces, expressing everything from curiosity to calculation to something that looks almost like pity. Maggie keeps her head high, meeting eyes without flinching. She has spent too many years being judged to fear judgment now. They stop at the courthouse, a squat brick building, trying and failing to look official. Inside, a nervous clerk shuffles papers when he sees Caleb fill the doorway. "Mr. Thornfield," he says, voice cracking slightly. "What can I do for you?" "Marriage license." The clerk's eyebrows shoot up. He looks past Caleb to Maggie, standing in the doorway, assessing her with the practiced eye of small-town gossip. "And you are Margaret Brennan," she says, stepping forward and setting her small bag on the counter. She pulls out papers she has kept carefully folded. Birth certificate, baptismal record, a letter from Mother Superior releasing her from convent obligations written in elegant script and sealed with the convent stamp. The clerk examines each document, clearly surprised by her preparation. Most women who marry mountain men do not come with documentation. Most are too poor or too desperate to have kept track of their papers through moves and rejections and years of hoping. "Everything appears to be in order," he says finally. "The marriage can be performed on Sunday." Father Callahan typically conducts ceremonies after morning service. They are stepping out of the courthouse marriage license, safely tucked in Maggie's bag, when a man blocks their path. He is young, perhaps 26, with the build of someone who works with Amy's hands and the swagger of someone who thinks those hands make him dangerous. "You sure you want to do this?" he asks Maggie, ignoring Caleb completely. "Marry the mountain hermit. Garrett says you could do better." Caleb goes very still beside her. Maggie can feel violence gathering in him like pressure before a storm. This is what Garrett wants, she realizes instantly. A public confrontation. Evidence that Caleb is unstable, dangerous, unfit for family life. She steps between them, smoothly drawing the man's attention to her instead of Caleb. "Mr. Brennan, correct?" She keeps her voice pleasant. Sarah had told her about Liam Brennan, Irish immigrant, mother sick with consumption. Working for Garrett because he needs the money. Liam blinks, surprised she knows his name. Yes, ma'am. I understand you work for Garrett Thornfield. I also understand your mother lives on the south side of town and needs medicine she cannot afford." His face goes wary. "How do you know about that?" "I asked. I have medicine that could help her, herbal remedies from the convent, free of charge because I believe in helping people, not threatening them." A crowd has gathered, as crowds do whenever there is potential for drama. Maggie is acutely aware of every face watching them, of this moment being the town's first real impression of who she is. "You can continue working for a man who pays you to intimidate and threaten," she says calmly. "Or you can remember that violence does not solve anything. The choice is yours, Mr. Brennan, but I hope you will choose well." She holds his gaze steady and calm until Liam looks away first. Something in his face shifts, embarrassment mixing with uncertainty. He looks at Caleb, then at the watching crowd, then back at Maggie. "I will tell Garrett you are not causing trouble," he says finally, then walks away quickly. Not quite running, but close. The crowd murmurs surprised. Several people are nodding, impressed by how she diffused what could have been a violent confrontation. A woman steps forward from the crowd, perhaps 35, wearing a practical dress and an appraising expression that is not unkind. "That was well done. I am Ruth Mercer. My husband is the town doctor." "Margaret Brennan, soon to be Thornfield." Ruth smiles with genuine warmth. "Welcome to Coal Ridge. We could use someone with sense around here." More women approach tentatively at first, then with increasing confidence. They introduce themselves, offer small welcomes, ask careful questions about where Maggie came from and what she plans to do. She answers honestly, telling them about the convent, about teaching children, about wanting a family of her own. Caleb stands back watching with something like wonder as Maggie does what he has never managed in 17 years. She makes people like her, makes them see her as one of them rather than an outsider. makes them willing to give her, and by extension, him a chance. When they finally climb back into the wagon to head home, Caleb is quiet for a long time. Maggie lets the silence sit comfortable now with his long pauses. "Thank you," he says finally, "for this morning. I just told the truth. You did something I have never been able to do. You made them see me as something other than the wild man on the mountain. You never tried to make them see anything else," Maggie says gently. "You decided what they thought of you and confirmed it by staying away. It was easier. Easier is not always better." "No," he agrees, sounding thoughtful. "I am starting to understand that." The next morning brings Marshal James Fletcher to their door. He is 50 years old, weathered by years of hard living, but his eyes are honest and his badge is polished. He tips his hat to Maggie when she answers his knock. "Ma'am, I am looking for Caleb Thornfield." "He is in the barn. Is there trouble, Marshal?" "That depends. May I speak with both of you?" They sit at the kitchen table, Sarah serving coffee while listening shamelessly. Fletcher spreads a map across the scarred wood, pointing to various marks he has made. "Your land sits on top of coal," he says without preamble. "A lot of it. Garrett knows this. He wants to mine it illegally, selling to railroad companies under market price in exchange for kickbacks." Caleb leans forward, studying the map. "Mining here would destroy the land." "Exactly. And when the land is worthless, he sells it back to the government at inflated prices, claiming the degradation happened naturally." Fletcher looks at Maggie. "That is conspiracy on multiple levels. Federal crimes." Maggie's mind, sharpened by 8 years of managing tight budgets and spotting discrepancies in ledgers, immediately sees the scope of the fraud. "But you need proof." "Yes, ma'am, and I need time. Garrett knows I am investigating. That is why he is rushing to take your land. If he gets it, he begins operations immediately. Within 6 months, 8,000 acres become wasteland, and he becomes very rich." "The deadline is 53 days away," Maggie says, counting from Garrett's visit. "Less than 2 months." "I know, which is why I am here." The case is built on whether Caleb is a settled family man. You need to prove that not just on paper, but in the eyes of the community. Maggie's strategic mind begins working. What does the community need? Fletcher considers. The schoolhouse needs repair. Roof will collapse come winter. Town does not have funds to fix it. Caleb looks at Maggie. Understanding dawns in both their eyes simultaneously. "You have lumber," she says. "You have the skills," he responds. "We fix the school," they say together. "Garrett will see it as desperation," Fletcher warns. "A responsibility," Maggie counters. "Community service. Family men care about where children learn." There is a long pause while Caleb thinks. She can see the war happening behind his eyes. The hermit he has been for 17 years, fighting against the man he needs to become. Finally, he nods. "We will fix the school." 3 days later, Caleb drives a wagon loaded with fresh-cut timber into Coal Ridge. People stop to stare. The mountain hermit, the man who has not voluntarily participated in community life in 17 years, has brought enough lumber to rebuild the entire roof. Samuel Green approaches cautiously. He is a black man who has worked various logging operations, always skilled, never quite accepted. He looks at Caleb with wary hope. "Mr. Thornfield, you are helping." "Children need a place to learn," Caleb says simply. "I have lumber." Samuel's expression shifts to something like gratitude. "Thank you, sir. This means a lot." Over the next 2 weeks, something shifts in Coal Ridge. Men arrive to help. Some from genuine goodwill, others from curiosity, all wanting to see if the hermit can actually work alongside other people. Caleb proves them wrong in every way. He directs the repair with quiet competence, his voice never raised but always listened to. When a beam proves weak, he identifies it immediately. "That will not hold. Replace it with oak." He measures twice, cuts once. His hands move with the precision of a master craftsman. When Samuel suggests a better angle for supporting the rafters, Caleb listens, adjusts the plan without ego. "Good eye, Samuel. Your way is stronger." The physical work is where Caleb truly shines. He lifts beams that take 2 men to carry, hoisting 200-pound timbers onto his shoulder alone and walking them into position. The other men whistle appreciation. This is competence made visible. This is what 17 years on a mountain does to a man's body and will. He works from dawn to dusk without complaint. His hands bleed from splinters, but he never stops. Sarah brings lunch and he eats standing, barely pausing in his labor. The other men see this and understand. Whatever else Caleb Thornfield might be, he is not lazy. He is not taking advantage. He is giving everything he has to help their children. While the men work on the roof, Maggie works with the women and displaced children. She teaches outdoors, spreading blankets under the weak winter sun, reading primers, basic arithmetic using stones, history lessons about the founding of the nation. The children, initially restless at the disruption, settle quickly under her gentle but firm guidance. She makes learning feel like discovery rather than duty. Parents watch and see something that surprises them. This woman, this almost nun who came from the city, understands children. She does not talk down to them, does not lose patience when they struggle. She celebrates small victories and guides them through failures without shame. One mother, watching her son finally grasp a reading lesson after weeks of struggle, approaches with tears in her eyes. "You are natural with them." "Where did you learn?" "A convent orphanage in Philadelphia," Maggie says. 8 years with 40 children. The woman nods slowly. "My husband says Caleb works harder than any two men up there. Doesn't lord his skill over anyone. Says you two are different than we expected." Maggie meets her eyes. "We just want to belong here, to build something worth keeping." By the late afternoon of the second week, the roof framework stands complete, beautiful and strong. Father Callahan arrives to bless the work, and the crowd that has gathered, nearly half the town, applauds. It is a small thing, a school roof, but it represents something larger: community, investment, care. Beatrice Howell, the banker's wife who had been snide at church about Caleb bringing home a woman so quickly, approaches them. Her face is stiff, but her words are genuine. "I may have judged you too quickly. You have proven you care about this town. Both of you." Maggie accepts gracefully. "Thank you, Mrs. Howell. We want to be part of this community." The celebration is winding down when the smell of smoke cuts through the evening air. Someone shouts, "Fire! The Thornfield barn is on fire!" Caleb runs. Maggie runs after him. By the time they reach the wagon, smoke is visible above the tree line, black against the darkening sky. Other men jump into wagons following, wanting to help, or maybe just wanting to see. The ride up the mountain is the longest 20 minutes of Maggie's life. She can smell the smoke getting stronger with every passing moment, can see the orange glow ahead growing brighter. When they crest the final hill, her worst fears are confirmed. The barn is fully engulfed. Flames leap 30 feet into the air, hungry and demonic, licking at the darkness. The heat is so intense she can feel it from 100 feet away. The crackling sound is like bones breaking, like the world ending. Smoke thick and black and poisonous billows in clouds that blot out the stars. And inside, the horses are screaming. The sound pierces Maggie's heart like a knife. Terrified whinnies. The thud of hooves kicking against stalls, panic given voice. Animals who trust humans to protect them, crying out for help that seems impossible to provide. Caleb does not hesitate. He jumps from the wagon before it fully stops, runs toward the barn door. Maggie screams his name, but he is already inside, already disappearing into smoke and flame. Seconds stretch into hours. Men arrive, form a bucket brigade from the creek. But everyone knows it is too late to save the building. The only question now is whether Caleb comes out alive. Then he is there, leading a terrified horse, its eyes rolling white with panic, its mane singed, its coat smoking. He gets the animal clear, hands it to one of the men, and goes back in. Maggie prays, her fingers wrapped around the rosary at her wrist, her lips moving silently. "Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women." He emerges with a second horse. This one is limping, its leg burned. Sarah catches the reins, begins examining the wound with quick, competent hands. And Caleb turns, heading back into the inferno for the third time. When he emerges with the last horse, his coat is smoking. His hands are burned, blisters already forming across the palms. His face is black with soot. He is coughing so hard his whole body shakes. And behind him, with a roar like an angry god, the barn collapses. Timbers crashing, sparks shooting high enough to touch the stars. The ground shakes from the impact. Maggie reaches him as he falls to his knees. She does not care about the soot or the burns or the watching crowd. She drops beside him, her hands checking for injuries, shaking with fear and relief. "You idiot," she says, voice breaking. "You absolute idiot. You could have died." He looks at her through the soot, his eyes still sharp despite the smoke. Could not let them burn. They did nothing wrong. In the morning light, Marshal Fletcher examines the barn's remains. He finds an oil lamp smashed near where the fire started. The glass is broken in a pattern that suggests it was thrown, not dropped. He kneels, studying the scorch marks the way the fire spread. His expression hardens. "Arson," he says flatly. "Someone set this deliberately." A ranch hand speaks up, nervous but determined. "I saw Liam Brennan near here earlier, before the fire started. Did not think nothing of it at the time, but now—" Fletcher's face goes grim. "Garrett's man, I will arrest him." But Maggie stands an idea forming. "Wait, let me talk to Liam first." The marshal looks skeptical, but something in her face makes him nod. "1 hour, then I bring him in." She finds Liam at the saloon drinking whiskey like a man trying to drown something. He looks up when she enters, surprise and shame wearing on his face. Every head in the saloon turns to watch. A woman alone in convent clothes entering a saloon. Unheard of. Maggie walks directly to his table. Her voice is gentle but firm. "The medicine I gave your mother. Did it help?" Liam's defenses crumble. He sets down his glass. His hands are shaking. Yeah, it helped. Why do you care?" "Because I said I wanted to help. And I think you did not want to do what you did last night." "I needed the money. Garrett pays good for—" He stops, realizing he is about to confess. "For burning barns," Maggie says quietly. "For hurting animals. Is that who you are, Liam?" His voice breaks. No, that is not who I am." "Then do not let Garrett make you into someone you are not. There are other ways, honest ways. Caleb needs ranch hands. You have experience, do you not?" Liam stares at her like she has grown a second head. "You are offering me a bow after I burned his barn. I am offering you a second chance, the same kind I got." The saloon is completely silent. Everyone listening, witnessing this moment. "Why would you do this?" Maggie's answer comes from her core. "Because Garrett does not care about your mother. I do. And that tells you everything you need to know about whose side you should be on." Liam sets down his drink, stands up straighter. "I will testify against Garrett. Tell Marshall everything he told me to do." Outside, Fletcher takes careful notes as Liam confesses. Everything. The intimidation, the barn fire, the threats Garrett made about what would happen if Liam refused. When he finishes, Fletcher nods grimly. "This is enough. With this testimony, I can start building a real case against Garrett." 3 weeks pass in a blur of activity. The school roof is completed. Caleb hires Liam along with 2 other young men from town who need honest work. The burned barn is rebuilt with help from neighbors who show up without being asked. And Maggie discovers she is pregnant. She knows before Doc Mercer confirms it. Knows from the way her body feels different. The slight nausea in mornings. The tenderness in her breasts. The odd feeling of fullness of something taking root inside her. When Doc examines her and pronounces her in excellent health due sometime in early autumn, she feels joy so intense it brings tears. But Doc pulls Caleb aside after the examination. His face is serious. "She is 22, young, which is good. But Caleb, I need to tell you something." "What?" "She had a miscarriage before." "Did she tell you?" Caleb goes pale. "What?" "When, a year ago, at the convent," Doc's voice is gentle but firm, "she was attacked by a drunk donor. The pregnancy from that assault ended in stillbirth at 5 months. The words hit Caleb like physical blows. Suddenly, so much makes sense. Why Maggie wants motherhood so desperately. Why she is willing to risk everything for a child. She is not just seeking family, she is seeking healing. "This pregnancy is high risk," Doc continues. "She will need complete rest if any complications arise. Bleeding, cramping, any sign the pregnancy is not progressing normally. If that happens, bed rest immediately. No stress. No travel. Definitely no courtroom drama." The warning hangs over them as the court date approaches. From Garrett's visit, Maggie tracks the countdown. Day 1 through day 10, school repair planning. Day 11 through 24, construction. Day 25, barn fire. Day 30, pregnancy confirmed at 4 weeks. Days 30 through 55 pass in cautious optimism. Then on day 55, with 5 days until the court date, Maggie wakes to cramping. Not terrible, not unbearable, but present. A warning. There is blood on the sheets. Not much, just spots. But enough to send Caleb racing for Doc Mercer while Sarah makes Maggie lie down, elevating her feet, speaking soft Cherokee prayers. Doc examines her carefully. His face is grave. Baby's heartbeat is still strong, but you are showing signs of threatened miscarriage. Complete bed rest for at least 6 weeks. No getting up except to use the bathroom. No stress. Caleb kneels beside the bed, taking her hand carefully like she is made of glass. The court date is in 5 days. Maggie's eyes fill with tears, but her voice is steady. You have to go without me. I cannot leave you. You have to. If you do not appear, Garrett wins by default. Everything we fought for, the school, the community support, Liam's testimony, it all means nothing if you do not show up. Doc speaks quietly from the doorway. Marshal Fletcher is petitioning for a delay, but with Judge Whitman presiding, it is unlikely. The judge is Garrett's friend. He wants this case over with. Maggie squeezes Caleb's hand. We knew this was risky. We knew Garrett would fight dirty. But you cannot let him win. Our baby needs a home. You need this land. Go fight for our family. What if I lose you while I am gone? You will not. I am stronger than I look. Sarah moves closer, placing her weathered hand on Caleb's shoulder. I will watch her every second. Doc will stay close. She will be here when you return. Caleb looks between the three of them. His gray eyes are bright with unshed tears. Finally, he nods, turns back to Maggie. I love you. Do you know that I did not plan to, did not want to risk it, but somewhere between your arrival and now, you became everything. It is the first time he has said the words. Maggie's tears spill over. I love you too. Now go win our future. That night, Caleb sits beside her bed, holding her hand, memorizing her face. Tomorrow he will ride to Charleston, a journey that will take him away for 3 days minimum. 3 days when anything could happen. 3 days when he will not be here if she needs him. Maggie falls asleep first, exhausted from stress and fear. Caleb watches her breathe, watches the slight swell of her belly where their child grows despite everything. He makes a promise to the darkness. I will win. I will bring us home. I will give this child a future. Then he bends, kisses her forehead softly, and whispers against her skin. Wait for me. In the morning, he is gone before she wakes. The space beside her bed is empty except for a note in his careful handwriting. You are my heart. I am fighting for you. Both of you. Wait for me. Maggie holds the note to her chest and cries, letting fear have its moment. Then she dries her tears, places both hands on her belly, and speaks to the child within. Your father is the strongest man I know. He is fighting for us, and we are going to be here when he comes home. Do you hear me? We are going to be here. Outside, snow begins to fall again, covering the mountains in white. Inside a warm cabin, a woman lies still, fighting her own battle. And on the road to Charleston, a man rides through darkness, racing toward a courtroom where his entire future will be decided. The war has reached its crisis point. Everything they have built hangs in the balance. And all Maggie can do is wait, pray, and hope that the foundation they laid is strong enough to hold against whatever comes next. 3 days of waiting, 3 days of prayer, 3 days that feel like years. Then as dawn breaks over Charleston on the morning of the trial, Caleb Thornfield stands before the courthouse that will decide everything. Charleston Courthouse sits like a monument to authority. All red brick and white columns designed to make ordinary people feel small. Caleb arrives at dawn after riding through the night. His clothes are dusty, his face is haggard with worry and exhaustion. He has not slept thinking of Maggie alone in that cabin, of the baby they might lose, of everything riding on the next few hours. Marcus Cole waits on the courthouse steps. He is a black lawyer from Charleston, 45 years old, with gray threading through his hair. Samuel Green vouched for him, said he was the best legal mind in 3 counties. Said he fought uphill battles his entire life and learned to win them through preparation and precision. He takes one look at Caleb and shakes his head. You look like hell, Thornfield. I feel worse. How bad is it? Marcus does not sugarcoat. Judge Whitman is presiding. He plays poker with Garrett every Thursday. The jury is local men, mostly businessmen with ties to Garrett's ventures. We are fighting from behind before we even start. Caleb nods grimly. Then we better be convincing. The courtroom fills quickly. News of the case has spread. Everyone wants to see if the mountain hermit can prove he deserves his land. The gallery is packed standing room only with familiar faces scattered throughout. Father Callahan sits in the front row, his priest collar stark white against his black coat. Samuel Green is there, Ruth Mercer beside him. 20 townspeople who made the journey to support Caleb to witness justice or its absence. Garrett Thornfield sits with his 3 lawyers, all wearing expensive suits and confident smirks. He looks at Caleb with undisguised triumph, already counting his winnings, already planning what he will do with 8,000 acres of coal-rich land. Judge Horace Whitman enters, a jowly man of 65 whose face suggests too many rich meals and too little conscience. He bangs his gavel, calling the court to order with perfunctory authority. Case of Thornfield versus Thornfield regarding land claim dispute. Prosecution may begin. Garrett's lead attorney stands. Caldwell is sharp-faced with the smooth assurance of someone accustomed to winning. His opening statement is a masterpiece of persuasion. Gentlemen of the jury, this case is straightforward. The law requires that large land parcels be held by settled families who contribute to community welfare. Mr. Caleb Thornfield has lived alone for 17 years, avoiding society, contributing nothing to the town surrounding his property. Only when facing this lawsuit did he suddenly produce a wife and claim impending fatherhood. He pauses, letting suspicion bloom in the jury's minds. The timing is, shall we say, convenient. He goes on to argue that Caleb is unfit to hold 8,000 acres, that his marriage is a sham, that his claims of family are desperate fabrication, that the land should be redistributed to someone who will use it properly and contribute to the community's economic growth. Caleb watches the jury's faces, sees doubt taking root. Caldwell is good at his job, very good. He is painting Caleb as exactly what the town has always believed him to be, a hermit, an outsider, someone who does not belong. Garrett takes the stand next. He lies with every appearance of sincerity settling into the witness chair, like a man with nothing to hide. How long have you known the defendant? All my life. Caleb and I grew up together, though we have always been very different. I have tried to maintain family connections, but he prefers isolation. When did you become concerned about his land holdings? When I realized he was sitting on valuable resources while contributing nothing to the community. Coal beneath that land could fuel our economic growth, provide jobs, help families. Instead, it sits unused while one man plays at being a mountain man. In his recent marriage, Garrett shakes his head with false sorrow. Convenient timing, would you not say? 17 years alone then, suddenly he needs a wife when the lawsuit begins. And the wife herself, if failed none, desperate enough to accept any arrangement. It is transparent. Marcus Cole rises for cross-examination, his voice calm but sharp. Mr. Garrett Thornfield, do you have a criminal record? Garrett shifts uncomfortably. Some minor charges years ago, all dismissed. Fraud charges, embezzlement charges. Dismissed because witnesses withdrew their testimonies. Is that not correct? The charges were baseless. Marcus places documents before the judge. I have affidavits from 3 of those witnesses stating they were threatened into silence. Judge Whitman waves dismissively. That is hearsay, inadmissible. Move along, counselor. Marcus does not flinch at the obvious bias. Let me ask directly then. Do you not have financial arrangements with railroad companies to mine coal from this land once you acquire it? Arrangements that would violate federal mining regulations, that would require falsified environmental assessments. Caldwell objects loudly, but Marcus continues, because I have correspondence between you and 3 railroad executives discussing exactly such arrangements. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Judge Whitman bangs his gavel, his face reddening. Order, this court will have order. But doubt has been planted. The jury looks at Garrett with new suspicion, their certainty shaken. The prosecution calls several character witnesses. A former employer claims Caleb was difficult to work with. A townsperson testifies he never attended community events. Each testimony reinforces the image of a man unfit for family life. Then Marcus begins the defense. He calls Father Callahan first. The priest takes the stand with quiet dignity, his Irish accent giving his words a musical quality that makes them memorable. Father, how long have you known Caleb Thornfield? 17 years, since he first came to these mountains. Would you describe him as antisocial? Father Callahan smiles slightly. I would describe him as wounded, by early loss, learning to protect himself through solitude. But antisocial, no. He built a school for children he does not have. He employs workers fairly regardless of their color or background. He attends church every Sunday since his wife arrived. That is not antisocial. That is a man learning to trust again. And Mrs. Margaret Thornfield, a woman of impeccable character. I knew her at Sacred Heart Convent in Philadelphia before she came here. She served there for 15 years as a teacher and nurse, not as a nun, but as a woman seeking her purpose. She found that purpose in family, in motherhood, in partnership with Caleb. The jury is listening now. Really listening. Is their marriage legitimate in the eyes of the church? Completely. I married them myself. They are expecting a child conceived in lawful matrimony. Marcus produces the marriage certificate, signed and witness dated weeks before the lawsuit accelerated. The timeline matters. Proof this was not a last-minute fabrication. Samuel Green testifies next, speaking with the careful precision of a man who knows his words carry extra weight because of his skin color. That some jurors will dismiss him just for being black, but others will hear the truth beneath. Mr. Thornfield gave me work when no one else would, not charity, fair employment based on my skills. He listens to my suggestions, treats me with respect. He is the finest man I have worked for. And his contribution to the community, he donated all the lumber for the school roof repair, worked alongside us for 2 weeks, never asking for recognition or payment. That is not a man avoiding community. That is a man caring for it. Ruth Mercer testifies about Maggie, describes how she teaches children, how she has been welcomed into the women's circle, how she has become part of the town's fabric in just weeks. She is not some desperate woman accepting whatever she can get. She is intelligent, capable, and genuinely in love with her husband. Anyone who sees them together knows it is real. The testimonies pile up, each one chipping away at the prosecution's narrative. But the real turning point comes when the courtroom doors open and a woman enters. The entire room goes silent. Rebecca Thornfield walks down the aisle. Caleb's ex-wife, the woman who left him, the woman whose abandonment taught him to never trust again. She has come to testify. Garrett's lawyer looks panicked. Marcus Cole looks satisfied. This is his surprise witness, the one he tracked down and convinced to tell the truth. Rebecca takes the stand, elegant, in a city dress, her face showing both nervousness and determination. Mrs. Thornfield, why did you leave your husband? She takes a breath. Because I was young and foolish and wanted excitement that mountain life could not provide. I blamed Caleb for my own dissatisfaction. Did he abuse you? Was he cruel? No. She says it firmly, meeting Caleb's eyes across the courtroom. He was kind, patient, trying to give me what I said I wanted. But I did not know what I wanted. I just knew it was not quiet contentment. And the rumors you spread about him being unfit for marriage, she looks ashamed. Lies. I told people he was emotionally unavailable, that he drove me away, because it was easier than admitting the failure was mine. Caleb deserved better than what I gave him. One last question. Do you believe he is capable of being a good husband and father? Rebecca looks at Caleb for a long moment. Yes, I believe he is capable of great love. I just was not the right person to receive it. But I think Mrs. Margaret Thornfield is. The courtroom is utterly silent. Even Judge Whitman seems taken aback by the raw honesty. Liam testifies next. His youth and obvious nervousness make his testimony more powerful. He confesses to everything. Garrett's orders to intimidate Caleb, the barn fire, the threats and bribes. His voice breaks when he explains why he stopped. Because Mrs. Thornfield showed me there was another way. She could have had me arrested. Instead, she offered medicine for my sick mother and a job working honestly. She saw something in me worth saving. That is the kind of people the Thornfields are. Marcus calls witness after witness, building a picture so clear Even a biased judge cannot ignore it. Caleb Thornfield is not a hermit. He is a man who protects what he loves, who works hard, who is learning to open his heart again. Margaret Thornfield is not desperate. She is strong, capable, choosing partnership over easy comfort. But the final witness changes everything. The courtroom doors burst open with a sound like thunder. Every head turns. Sister Margaret Brennan Thornfield stands in the doorway, pale as death, one hand pressed to her swollen belly, the other gripping Sarah's arm for support. She should be on bed rest, should be in bed protecting the baby growing inside her. But she is here. Caleb is on his feet instantly. Maggie, you should not be here. Judge Whitman bangs his gavel. Who is this woman? This is highly irregular. Maggie walks forward slowly. Each step is visible effort. Her voice when she speaks is weak but clear, carrying to every corner of the silent courtroom. Margaret Brennan Thornfield, the defendant's wife. I need to testify. Madam, you are clearly unwell. I am pregnant and at risk of miscarriage. I should be on bed rest, but I am here because justice matters more than my comfort. She reaches the witness stand, refuses the chair they offer, stands instead with visible determination. The bailiff swears her in his voice gentle. Marcus approaches carefully. Mrs. Thornfield, why did you come here today? Because I heard what the prosecution said, that our marriage is a sham, that I am desperate, that we are lying about everything. And is that true? Maggie's laugh is bitter. I have been desperate. 4 times before Caleb I answered marriage advertisements. 4 times men rejected me. Too educated, too religious, too young, too damaged. I know what desperate looks like. She pauses, gathering strength. But this, our marriage, it is the first time in my life I have not had to pretend to be someone I am not. Caleb did not want me to be softer, quieter, less intelligent. He wanted me exactly as I am. Her voice grows stronger with passion. You want proof this marriage is real? I am risking my baby's life to be here. I rode 3 hours in a wagon while bleeding. While my body tried to reject the child, I want more than breathing. Because I will not let lies stand unchallenged. The courtroom is spellbound. Even Garrett looks uncomfortable. Caleb Thornfield is not a hermit playing at family. He is a man who was hurt and learned to protect himself. But in the weeks I have known him, I have watched him open his heart. He fixed a school for children who are not his. He hired workers fairly. He attends church. He is building community, not avoiding it. Caldwell tries to regain ground. And the pregnancy, is it not convenient timing? Maggie turns to face him directly. My baby is not convenient. My baby is wanted with every fiber of my being. I have dreamed of being a mother for 15 years. This child is everything to me. She places both hands on her belly, protective and fierce. You can question my husband's motives. You can question mine. But do not you dare question this baby's legitimacy. This child is conceived in love, in lawful marriage. And if I lose it because I am here defending my family's right to exist, that is on every person in this room who forced me to choose between bed rest and justice. The silence is absolute. Then from the gallery, someone stands. Ruth Mercer, voice clear and strong. I stand with the Thornfields. Samuel Green stands. I stand with the Thornfields. Father Callahan stands. I stand with the Thornfields. One by one, all 20 townspeople who came rise to their feet, their voices overlapping. I stand with the Thornfields. I stand with the Thornfields. The jury shifts uncomfortably. Seeing community solidarity, they cannot ignore. Judge Whitman looks trapped between his loyalty to Garrett and public opinion turning against him. He bangs his gavel weakly. Mrs. Thornfield, you may step down. Jury will deliberate. But before Maggie can move, she gasps, doubling over. Blood spreads across her skirt, bright red against pale fabric. Caleb catches her as she collapses, his face white with terror. Maggie, stay with me, Maggie. Doc Mercer pushes through the crowd, having arrived just behind Maggie and Sarah. He examines her quickly, his expression grave. She needs to lie down immediately. Flat, feet elevated, she is losing too much blood. They clear a space. Someone produces blankets. Maggie lies on the courthouse floor. Her hand finds Caleb's gripping hard. The baby, she whispers. Please, the baby. Doc works quickly, barking orders. Sarah produces herbs from her bag, makes tea that Maggie sips despite the bitter taste. The minutes stretch like hours while the entire courtroom watches. Prayer and hope hang thick in the air. Finally, Doc sits back. Bleeding stopped, baby's heartbeat is still strong, but she needs complete rest. And I mean bed, not courtroom floor. Judge Whitman finds his voice. Court is in recess. Jury will deliver verdict when ready. But one juror stands. Henderson, a farmer, who watched the entire scene with increasing emotion. He looks at his fellow jurors, then at the judge. We do not need to deliberate. We have seen enough. The jury foreman nods agreement. The other jurors murmur assent. Henderson turns to face the courtroom. His voice carries authority. We find for the defendant, Caleb Thornfield. His land claim is upheld. His marriage is legitimate. His family is real. He looks at Garrett with contempt. And anyone trying to take this man's home after watching his wife risk her life to defend it is no kind of man at all. The courtroom erupts in applause. Judge Whitman bangs his gavel, but even he looks relieved to have the decision taken from his hands. Furthermore, the judge says, clearly trying to salvage something, this court orders investigation into Garrett Thornfield's business practices. Marshal Fletcher, you may proceed with your inquiry. Marshal Fletcher steps forward with obvious satisfaction. Garrett Thornfield, you are under arrest. Conspiracy to commit fraud, arson, witness intimidation, and attempted claim jumping. Garrett's face goes purple with rage. This is not over. But Caleb, still holding Maggie, looks at him with calm certainty. Yes, it is. You lost, and you will never touch my family again. They carry Maggie to a hotel room near the courthouse. Doc Mercer and Sarah hover, while Caleb refuses to leave her side. The bleeding has stopped, but Maggie is weak, frightened, her face paper white against the pillows. I am sorry, she whispers. I should not have come. Caleb takes her hand, brings it to his lips. You won the case. Your testimony, your courage, it changed everything. I almost lost our baby, but you did not. Doc says you are both stable now. You just need rest. Maggie closes her eyes in exhaustion, pulling her under. Caleb watches her breathe, memorizing the rise and fall of her chest, the slight swell of her belly where their child grows despite everything. Sarah touches his shoulder. She is strong. Baby is strong. You need rest too. But Caleb stays awake through the night, keeping vigil. Afraid that if he looks away, Maggie might slip through his fingers like water, like smoke, like everyone else he has ever loved. Morning brings Doc with cautiously good news. Baby's heartbeat is steady, no more bleeding through the night. She can travel home, but she will need to stay in bed for at least a month. The wagon ride back to the mountains is slow, careful. Caleb drives with infinite patience while Maggie lies in the back on a bed of blankets and pillows. Every bump makes him wince, worried it will start the bleeding again. But they make it home without incident. Caleb carries Maggie inside like she weighs nothing, settling her into their bed. The first time she has slept in his room, his bed, rather than the guest room she started in. I am staying here, she says. No more separate rooms. We are married. We should sleep together. What if I roll over on you in my sleep? Then I will kick you. She smiles weakly. I want to wake up next to you, Caleb, every morning, no matter what happens. So he stays. Every night he lies beside her, careful not to jostle, one hand resting lightly on her belly, feeling for movement. During the day, he works close to the house, coming in every hour to check on her, bringing water, books, anything she needs. The weeks pass slowly. Maggie stays in bed, reading, knitting tiny clothes, talking to the baby she cannot yet feel moving. Caleb reads to her in the evenings. Poetry mostly because she loves the rhythm of the words, and he loves seeing her face soften with pleasure. Then one evening in late spring, Maggie gasps. Caleb is beside her instantly, fear sharp in his chest. What is wrong? Are you bleeding? Oh. She takes his hand, places it on her belly. Wait. He waits. Then he feels it, a flutter, a tiny movement against his palm. Their baby saying hello for the first time. That is our child, Maggie whispers, tears streaming down her face. That is our baby moving. Caleb cannot speak. He presses his face against her belly, overwhelmed with emotion he does not know how to name. Relief, joy, love so fierce, it terrifies him. Hello, little one, he says to the baby. Your mama and I have been waiting for you. Doc clears her for light activity in June. By July, she is walking around the cabin helping Sarah with simple tasks, teaching children who come to visit 3 afternoons a week. Her belly grows round and prominent. The baby is active now, kicking whenever Caleb reads poetry aloud. The town embraces them fully. Women drop by with advice and baby gifts. Men ask Caleb for help with various projects, including him and community life. The Thornfields are no longer outsiders. They are family. September arrives with golden light and the first hint of autumn color on the mountain slopes. Maggie goes into labor on a Sunday morning, calm and prepared. Doc Mercer is already there. Sarah has everything ready. Caleb paces the floor below, terrified and useless. The labor is long, 20 hours. But Maggie is strong. She breathes through contractions, grips Sarah's hand, refuses pain medication because she wants to feel everything, wants to be present for her child's arrival. When a cry finally fills the cabin, high and indignant, imperfect Doc appears at the top of the stairs, grinning. You have a daughter, healthy, loud, and beautiful. Mother and baby are both perfect. Caleb takes the stairs 3 at a time. Maggie lies in bed exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in the quilt Sarah made. The baby is red-faced and furious, her small fists waving at the injustice of being born. She is perfect, Maggie breathes. Caleb, look at her. She is absolutely perfect. Caleb kneels beside the bed. One finger gently touches his daughter's tiny hand. She grabs it with surprising strength, and his heart, already given to Maggie, expands to include this new person, this miracle they created. What should we name her? Clara, Caleb says. It means bright clear, because she brought clarity into both our lives. Clara Thornfield, Maggie whispers. Welcome to the world, Clara. Your papa and I love you more than words can say. Plus, 5 years pass. The cabin has expanded. A second-story addition houses 2 bedrooms because Clara has been joined by Thomas, a chubby 3-year-old with his mother's determination and his father's quiet strength. Maggie is visibly pregnant again, due in 3 months. She teaches school now, formally hired by the town after the old teacher retired. 20 children attend learning reading and arithmetic and kindness from a woman who knows what it means to be overlooked. Caleb still works the land, but differently now. He has partnered with Samuel Green, made him co-owner of the timber operation. They employ 30 men, black and white, working side by side, paid fairly, treated with respect. The operation is so successful, other businesses have started following their model. On a warm September evening, the family gathers on the porch. Clara, now 5, reads aloud from a primer, her voice serious and careful. Thomas plays with wooden blocks Caleb carved building towers and knocking them down with great satisfaction. Maggie rocks slowly, one hand resting on her belly where the third child grows. Caleb brings her lemonade kisses, her forehead, settles into his own chair with Thomas climbing immediately into his lap. Papa, tell the story, Thomas says. Clara sets down her book, eyes bright. Which story, little bird? How you and Mama met. It is my favorite. Maggie laughs. You have heard it 100 times. I want to hear it 100 more. So Caleb tells the story. Modified for young ears, but honest in its essentials. About a lonely man who thought he did not need anyone and a brave woman who answered his advertisement, seeking honesty rather than romance. About threats overcome and community found, and love discovered in the least expected place. And then what happened? Clara always asks this, though she knows the answer. Then we fought for each other. Your mama came to court even though she was sick because she believed in truth. The town stood with us because we showed them who we really were. And we won. Because you loved each other, Clara says confidently. Caleb meets Maggie's eyes across the porch. Yes, because we learned to love each other even when we did not think we could. Later, after the children are asleep and the mountain is quiet under stars, Maggie finds Caleb standing at the edge of the porch looking out over their land. What are you thinking? That I was wrong about promises. She waits, knowing he will explain when ready. I thought the most important promise was the oath I made to protect this land, to build something that would last, to create a legacy. He turns to face her, taking her hands. And now I know the real promise was the one I made to you, to open my heart, to risk love even when it terrified me, to choose connection over safety every single day. He pauses. You saved me, Maggie. Not just from Garrett, not just from losing the land. You saved me from myself, from a half-life lived in fear. Maggie squeezed his hands. We saved each other. I was drowning in rejection, thinking I was not enough. You showed me I was more than enough, exactly as I was. They stand together, two people who began as strangers making a practical arrangement, who became partners in a fight for justice, who became lovers learning trust, who became a family that is unshakable. Inside the cabin, Clara calls out in her sleep, "Mama, Papa." Both parents move instinctively toward the sound, together, united, knowing their daughter is not afraid, just checking they are near. They stand in her doorway, watching her settle back into sleep, her small hand clutching the quilt Sarah made. The pattern representing family trees and connections and love passed down through generations. This is the legacy, not land or timber or wealth, though those matter too. The real legacy is teaching their children that strength comes from vulnerability, that love is worth risking everything for, that the bravest thing you can do is let someone see you completely and trust they will stay anyway. This is what Caleb and Maggie built from a simple advertisement, from a practical arrangement, from two broken people deciding to become whole together. This is their mountain, their family, their forever. The sun has set while Caleb told his story. The mountains are purple shadows against a darkening sky. Daniel sits very still, the army uniform forgotten his mind full of images from 40 years past. Caleb rocks slowly, the chair creaking like it has for decades. His voice when he speaks again is soft. Your grandmother lived to be 70. We had 40 years together. 3 children, 12 grandchildren. More great-grandchildren than I can count. She died in this chair looking at these mountains, holding my hand. She sounds amazing. She was everything. Caleb looks at his grandson. Do you understand what I am telling you, Daniel? The war you are going to tomorrow, it is not the real war. The real war is the one you fight inside. The choice between walls and windows, between safety and risk, between protecting yourself and letting someone see you. Daniel nods slowly. Were you ever scared after you let her in? Sorry, every day. Terrified I would lose her. Terrified I would fail her. Terrified I was not enough. Caleb's voice roughens with emotion. But I was more scared of going back to who I was before. Half dead, half alive. Existing but not living. He stands joints protesting and places both hands on Daniel's shoulders. Whatever happens in Vietnam, whatever you see, whatever you do, remember this. The promises that matter are not the ones you make to your country or your unit or your pride. The promises that matter are the ones you make with your whole heart. To love someone even when it terrifies you. To build something bigger than yourself. To choose courage over comfort. Daniel stands, embraces his grandfather. The old man's arms are still strong despite his age. Thank you, Grandpa, for the story, for everything. Come home, Caleb says simply. Whatever else happens, come home. The next morning, Daniel leaves for war. Caleb watches from the porch as the car disappears down the mountain. The same mountain where he met Maggie 40 years ago. Where they fought for their future. Where they built a life worth living. He thinks about promises. About the one he almost broke. About the woman who taught him what love means. About the legacy that continues in Daniel and all the others who carry their blood, their values, their story forward into an uncertain future. In the mountains, seasons change, but some things remain constant. The land endures, love persists. And the promises we keep with our whole hearts echo through generations, shaping lives not yet lived, giving courage to people not yet born. This is what Caleb Thornfield learned in 1923. This is what he taught his grandson in 1963. This is what will live forever in the hearts of those who hear his story and understand that the bravest thing a man can do is not to close his heart, but to open it. Not to run from love, but to run toward it. Not to make promises lightly, but to keep them at any cost. The mountains stand eternal. And on a porch in West Virginia, an old man rocks slowly, remembering a woman with dark eyes and fierce courage who answered his advertisement and saved his life.